Daniel Ricciardo's return to Formula One in the 2023 season only lasted 2 Grand Prix after the Australian suffered a hand fracture in the second free practice for the Dutch Grand Prix on Friday. Why did the Aussie get injured in an apparently small accident, and when will he get back to action? Let's take a look at it with the grid report, but first, we kindly request that you consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Now let's start. The unfortunate sequence happened just 10 minutes into FP2 when Oscar Piastri lost control of his McLaren at the banked turn 3 of the Zandvoort circuit and went on to hit the tyre barrier. Ricciardo, who had taken Nyck de Vries' place from the Hungarian Grand Prix onwards at the Scuderia AlphaTauri, was behind the rookie and ended up crashing into the barriers himself to avoid hitting the McLaren. Ricciardo wasn't able to take his hands off the wheel in time to avoid the impact and quickly showed pain in his left wrist. A subsequent visit to a local hospital confirmed the fractured metacarpal in his left hand. His seat is now taken by Liam Lawson, Red Bull's junior driver and reserve driver for both the Milton Keynes and AlphaTauri teams at Zandvoort. Ricciardo explained the accident. "I remember coming into turn 3. I had already gotten into the corner and then saw Piastri, so it was either hit him or the wall. When I hit the wall, I didn't have enough time to take my hands off the steering wheel, so the wheel came and hit my hand." Hours later, Ricciardo left Zandvoort and traveled to Barcelona, where he is expected to undergo surgery by Dr. Xavier Mir, a Spanish specialist who often treats MotoGP riders and who earlier this year treated Lance Stroll when the Canadian suffered a broken wrist following a bike accident last February. Stroll missed a Formula One pre-season but managed to recover in time to take part days later in the opening Grand Prix of the 2023 championship in Bahrain. It's uncertain at the moment when exactly Ricciardo will be able to return to his seat at AlphaTauri. Immediately after the Dutch GP, the Formula One circus will go to Monza next weekend for the Italian Grand Prix. 2 weeks later, the Singapore Grand Prix takes place at the Marina Bay Street Circuit, one of the most physically demanding of the season for F1 drivers. Red Bull boss Christian Horner told Sky Sports F1 that Ricciardo has his sights set on a comeback attempt in Singapore, while he acknowledged it is probably one of the most tough circuits on the calendar. Horner added, "Any normal human being would probably be about 10 to 12 weeks, but we know that these guys aren't normal. So it will all be about the recovery process. How long that will take? Is it going to be 3 weeks, a month? Is it 6 weeks? Nobody really knows." After Singapore, Formula One will head straight to Suzuka for the Japanese Grand Prix, which will be followed by a 2-week break before the Qatar Grand Prix on October 8th. Regardless of when Ricciardo will be able to drive a Formula One car again, it's clear that this injury comes at a very bad time for him. After losing his McLaren seat at the end of the 2022 season, the Australian had signed as Red Bull Racing's third driver and had managed to return to racing when Helmut Marko decided that Nyck de Vries' work at AlphaTauri wasn't good enough after just 12 races into the season. Ricciardo got into the Faenza team's car in Hungary without testing and immediately afterward raced in Belgium. Ricciardo had hoped to make further progress on his return to Formula One at Zandvoort, having used the summer break to process what he had learned from the AlphaTauri Challenger. The Aussie will now need to focus on recovering 100% from his injury to return to his best form. That's it for today's breaking news on the Grid Report.